talk to a lot of business people, CEOs, presidents, about leadership. And the first interesting thing about the topic is that it is somewhat difficult to define. And that is partly because people have different temperaments, and different temperaments can be leaders. They just do it in different ways. But there are a few things that I think are common about being a leader. And I would say the first one is that you need to know where you're going. You need to have a clear vision, because what are you going to do? Lead people in circles? I mean, maybe some will follow you, but that is charlatan leadership. So you have to know where you're going, and then you have to be able to communicate that well, and then people have to trust you. So you have to be honest, because people aren't that stupid, at least not for long. And then where you're going has to have some values, because otherwise, why would anyone want to go along with you? And then you might ask, well, what are the attributes that make you a leader? And I would say they're characterological fundamentally, and that is not naive optimism or casual moralizing. It has nothing to do with that. We know, for example, that conscientiousness, the personality trait, is a good predictor of long-term success in most occupations, not all, but most. And that one of the things that's associated with conscientiousness is that people keep their word. They're trustworthy and dependable, and that's certainly one element of a leader, especially across any reasonable amount of time. You have to be able to trust the person that is leading you. They can even be harsh sometimes, and that doesn't seem to matter, because you can see both harsh leaders and kind leaders be successful as long as they do what they say they will do, and then you can follow them and know that the future payoff is secure. So the idea that characterological development is important to leadership is very crucial. Is a very crucial psychological realization, and I do think that we've forgotten this in many ways, because there isn't a lot of emphasis in our education system on characterological development, and that's very, very surprising to me. And I think maybe it's partly because in our fractured society we can't agree on what constitutes a reasonable characterological goal, so we just kind of throw up our hands and we don't educate our kids to any degree at all, especially in schools, about what an admirable person is like, or even let them know that maybe that they should actually try to be one. And I think that's the most important possible thing that you can learn. I think not knowing or understanding how you can develop into an admirable person is absolutely catastrophic. And I think we've known for a long time that the moral presuppositions of a culture are instantiated in its stories and not instantiated in its explicit philosophy. There might be a layer of explicit philosophy that, a layer of explicit law, but underneath that, there are stories. So there better be something to the stories that underlie a culture. And the fact that we're so fractured in our society with regard to our underlying cultural stories, or lack thereof, is concerning. And as far as I can tell, we're going to pay for this lack of solid underlying cultural stories. I think we're going to pay for it individually, because we're going to be weak. I think if you're not firm in your convictions, then someone else who is firm in their convictions is going to come along, and you're going to be their puppet instantly. And then you're also puppet of your own doubts, because unless you have convictions, you're going to generate doubts, and then the doubts are going to win, and you're going to be paralyzed because there'll be 50% of you moving forward and 50% of you frozen stiff, and that'll be enough to just lodge you in place. Strong leaders must communicate their visions effectively. Stories are important to this effort and can be vital tools, especially psychologically. So I leave you with these questions. What is your vision? How are you communicating your vision? And finally, what are the stories that underlie